This is the complete bench pressing guide, how anyone can get 2 plates on bench. In this video, I'm going to cover from the beginner level of form and technique, all the way up to programming variations and how I exactly got myself to 2 plates on bench for reps, as well as including some extra advice that you might not often see towards the end of the video. First and foremost, we've got to talk about form and technique. Now this might seem something that's pretty beginner level, and if you're a beginner, that's great because this is going to help you out. But even if you find yourself in the intermediate or advanced level, you might find yourself being a little bit relaxed on one of these cues that I'm going to lay out. I'm going to lay out the entire structure of the bench press form, all the way from the basics to kind of more advanced technique adjustments. If you've watched any bench pressing content, if you know anything about the bench press, what you should be doing is retracting your scapula. Now what does this mean? This means pulling your shoulders back and down, just like so that they're rolled into the position that they need to be. What this does is it elevates the chest, puts it in the front and foremost of the movement, and stops you from having that flat, curved over posture. If you lie on the bench without that retracted scapula, without that slight arch, what you'll find is the emphasis will go much more to your shoulders than it will your chest, and also you'll be a lot weaker. You can see this video I'm gesturing to the bar. Now what this is this has got to do with your setup. How far down the bench do you want to be? All too often I see people lining up to the rack and being far too close, and that messes with their ability to press properly. What you want to do is line up so that your eyes are directly underneath the bar. This means that there's no risk of hitting the bar back into the rack, and there's not going to be any risk of clanging off the J-hooks. It means that you're going to be in a really nice position that you can clear the rack, and then you can just think about pressing up and back without any difficulty. Your grip, specifically your grip width. All too often I see beginners in the gym set up far too close of a grip. Now this is fine if you're doing close grip bench press, if you're specifically trying to target the triceps. But if you're looking to target your chest and you're looking to get your bench press up, your main movement should usually be somewhere about 1.5 times shoulder width, or even up to 2 times shoulder width if you're a little bit more concerned on the powerlifting side of things. You're going to want to grip it deep into your palm. All too often I just see people absent-mindedly grab onto the bar. What this ends up with is a very shallow grip with a bar placement very high in the hands. This can lead to the wrists rolling too far back, and also just doesn't allow you to fully engage your forearms onto the bench press. What you want to do instead is to turn your hands inward, have the bar line across the middle of your palm, and then you can wrap all your fingers around the bar so you get a nice tight, solid and comfortable grip that allows you to transmute as much force as possible into the bar. Now this next bit of advice really only applies if you don't have a spotter or a self-spotting bench. If you have to set up in a static bench or rack, something you can do if you struggle to press the bar out when it's in that position is get yourself into position, roll the shoulders back, retract the scapula, grab onto the bar with the grip demonstrated, and simply as you press, lift your bum up in the air, and it's going to allow you just to clear the rack with that little bit of height before you just put your bum back down on the bench and then get yourself ready to press. The number one mistake I see when people bench press, the most common one, is people pushing up and away from them. They do this because they think that they're pushing the bar straight up and down, but as you can see from this side on, when you think about pushing the bar up and down in a straight line, you end up pressing up and away from yourself. You can see that the angle of the elbow and the wrist is leading the elbow, which makes you much weaker and puts all the emphasis on the shoulder joint. It's a little bit like a front raise, and obviously, as you know, someone can bench press a lot more than they can front raise. So for the same reason, what you're going to want to do is press the bar up and back in a diagonal fashion. So you roll the bar down to the body and you push it up and towards eye level in a diagonal line. This brings me to my final point on form. What you want to do on the bench press to establish control, if you feel that your bench is wonky, wobbles, that you don't have much control of the weight, something that you're going to want to do is thinking about bending the bar like you're trying to exert the force to snap it. What this is going to do is it's really going to engage the back and tuck your elbows so that you're in a nice strong position whilst keeping the bar very rigid and under control. The next thing that you're going to want to do along the lines of this is not just think about pushing the bar up and back and absent-mindedly bringing the bar down. You want to think about it like a barbell row, that as much as you're pushing the bar up, you're also rowing it down to about the middle of your chest, just across the nipple line, rowing it down to the body, and then pressing your upper back into the bench as hard as you can when you come up. If you can do all of these cues together, you'll often find that your bench press might actually just increase upon improving that form alone. If you're a beginner, this will leave you in a great spot, as you'll know that you can bench press safely and optimally to transmute as much force into the bar as possible and really engage the chest muscles. And I've seen many times that some intermediates to advanced lifters get one of these cues, and after a while of using it, they see a breakthrough on a plateau just by taking one of these cues and adding it in to their regular bench press setup. So let's assume that you have perfect form and technique and you still have not got to 2 plates or above on bench press. Something that can help is how you think about structuring your program. I'm going to give out some very basic tips and advice that will take your bench press from plateaued to progressing once more. Frequency. Very often I'll see people tell me that they struggle on their bench press and that their bench press just will not go up no matter what they do. Now usually I find with these people, they might do a program like 5-3-1 where there's a single bench day, or any other type of program that requires a flat bench once a week. Usually in the cases of this, is these people are not benching enough. The bench is not like a deadlift. You can get away with benching or doing some type of bench variation semi-frequently. My recommendations, if you're not doing it already, is to bench anywhere 2 to 3 times per week. Now, if you're just doing a conventional flat bench with the barbell, I would really say that the upper range is 2. I wouldn't want to see someone do 3 flat bench presses in the same week. I think it's far too fatiguing on the shoulder joints, the elbows, stuff like that. However, I think it's actually best to go towards the higher frequency approach if you're looking to put the weights up. So how do you do that? Well, if you use some tried and true variations on the bench press, you'll see a major transformation where you already are. I found that I was often someone that just flat benched. At most I would flat bench twice a week. It got me to a point, but from there I could no longer progress. That was until I started adding in dumbbell bench as a second day. And I noticed when I added in dumbbell bench, my barbell bench press started to go up. It allowed me to train the movement pattern without accruing as much fatigue. So I was disadvantaged with the dumbbell press as it's much greater range of motion and it's a slightly different joint angle. So I could really test the strength of my chest and the musculature without incurring any repetitive strain injuries. I think you can add to this even again. So dumbbell bench and flat bench is a very good combination, but if you really want to take it to the next level, you want to do something one day with a flat bench, one day with a dumbbell bench, and an additional day with an incline press. And when you put all of these 3 things together, I find that you really do find yourself progressing in strength and size of the pectorals. One of my favourite models to do is to do one flat bench, one similar variation, either an incline or a dumbbell bench press, and a fluff and pump variation. So what I mean by a fluff and pump variation is something like a Smith machine bench press or a hammer strength machine chest press. The reason being for this is it allows you to absolutely fry the muscle. You don't have to worry about your form and technique. You just stress the chest in a similar movement pattern to your conventional bench press. When I would do this, I would do it less for strength and I would do it in a kind of more bodybuilding rep range. I would be a bit higher, somewhere kind of 3 sets, 8 to 12, and just try and absolutely cook the muscle with extremely high efforts that I maybe couldn't employ on some of the more technical lifts. On top of my flat bench, dumbbell bench press and fluff and pump press, I would also do some type of chest fly. My favourite variation was actually the chest fly machine with the fixed arms and a slight bend at the elbow. I found this allowed me to maximise usage of weight whilst also keeping my form intact and really stressing the pectoral muscles. What I'm going to talk about is actually some muscles that you need to work and some variations that you need to work that I don't think a lot of people talk about. I don't think it's very fashionable, but I think it is just as important as anything else I've talked about. Overhead pressing. I think overhead pressing is one of the most important things that you can do for your bench press. It directly isolates the front delts and the triceps, which majorly contribute in a secondary manner to your bench press. If you can get a strong overhead press, I think your bench press will definitely go up. You don't want to just have the focus on the chest primarily. You need to be backing it up with other muscle groups. I think this is also something that applies to any type of shoulder work. I think if you do your rear delt work, your lateral raises, I think it does in a secondary fashion contribute to your bench pressing ability. And moreover, the entire upper body, if you can get your back musculature increased, you will experience a positive effect on your bench press. All too often people just focus on the pressing. However, if you have weak lats and upper back, you will find that you don't have the stability at the bottom of your bench press. You want stability, you want big enough lats that you can really pop out of that bottom position. And when you're thinking about your upper body or anything in your body, you can't really think in terms of isolation. Every single muscle contributes in some way to any of your movement patterns. Although the back plays a stabilising role and isn't one of the main movers, the more stable you can be, the more force you can put into the bar. So taking your back work seriously is also an important tenet of improving your bench press. And finally, we can't forget about the arms. And I say the arms, not just the triceps. Obviously, the triceps are going to take precedent because they are important for locking out your bench press. I think it's important to do any type of tricep work. I also think doing your bicep work will contribute in a small way to your bench press success. I don't think anyone's bench press was made or broken by doing some arm isolation exercises, but I think it's something that you need to take seriously, as you can't leave any stone unturned. I'm going to talk about something that not many people talk about when it comes to bench pressing. I see a lot of guys that are maybe 60 kilos, 135 pounds, and they'll say to me, look, how do I get my bench press up while staying at 60 kg body weight? My favourite 60 kg powerlifter can bench 120 kg. My favourite 135 lb powerlifter can bench 275 pounds. And they think in terms of, I will stay the exact size that I will stay. I will not put on an iota of muscle tissue and I'm just going to go for all of those neurological adaptations so I can be like my favourite powerlifter. I want to be really competitive and in my weight class, and I want to stay the weight that I am so that I can perfect and break records in my weight class. A lot of these guys fail to see that, one, by putting on muscle tissue, you're going to go out the bounds of your current weight class. Two, that their favourite powerlifter most likely cuts into their weight class, that they walk around a little bit bigger and then compete at the smaller size. The reason being for this is it's easier to retain muscle tissue than to build muscle tissue. In turn, this gets us to our point, is that you need to bulk, you need to be putting on the weight, you need to be making sure that you're taking your nutrition seriously and that you're in a calorie surplus. The reason that a lot of these guys do so well is that they cut around most of the year, maybe anywhere 10 to 15 kilos higher than their competitive weight class, and then when time comes, they do a 12-week cut and then they go into their competition. Chances are 99% of people in the gym are not going to be world record powerlifters. They're not going to be at the top circuit of bodybuilding. So concerning yourself with the weight classes of IPF powerlifters is asinine. If you want to be stronger, if you want to look better, you need to put on muscle tissue. And the only way to put on muscle tissue is by taking extra energy into your body through increased calories. The same way in thermodynamics, energy can't be created or destroyed, it can only be changed. So you can't expect your body just to manifest muscle from nowhere. You have to be putting the calories and you have to be putting the fuel into your body to then create muscle tissue. If you want to cut down later for whatever reason, that's something that's available to you. But if you actually want your strength to go up, and if you actually want your overall muscle tissue to go up, you have to take a period of time where you deliberately put on weight. This has had one of the most profound effects on my bench press. I often found myself floating around that 60 kg mark a few years ago and refusing to leave it. And because I did that, my bench press refused to go up. I've seen the most progress in my bench press this year, and that is solely through increasing my calories. Now, what was my exact program that got me to 2 plates on bench? The workout began with a flat bench in the week, opening with a heavy set of 3 to 5 reps. This was kind of considered an AMRAP. 3 to 5 reps was my window. If I achieved 5 reps, I could put the weight up next week. Now, I also took in this set and rep structure, each set individually. So I pushed them as hard as I could. Anytime that I eclipsed the top end of the rep range, I simply added 2.5 kilos or roughly 5 pounds to the bar. In the middle of the week, this is where the shoulders took more precedent. So I would open up with an overhead press on the barbell, same protocol of the rep ranges, 3 to 5, 5 to 8, and 8 to 10. Once again, this would be complemented with an upper back exercise. However, I would usually at this point include my fluff and pump exercises that I told you about. Some type of Smith machine bench press or hammer strength machine, chest press machine, and any type of chest fly. The final day of the week, I would then focus on my most similar variation to bench press, be that a dumbbell bench press or an incline bench press, following the structure of 3 to 5, 5 to 8, 8 to 10. And this once more would complement the exact muscle groups that I've laid out previously. Now, I'm going to put all of this up on screen so that you can see the breakdown of each day exactly, including things that maybe don't contribute to the bench press as much, such as the leg movements that I did as well. I think it's good to be completely transparent and show the exact program as written. When I followed this program, combined with the calorie surplus and the form and technique protocols that I've laid out, it very quickly took me to those 2 plates on bench press. Now let me know down below, is there anything that you saw here that you disagree with, that you liked, or any kind of underrated cues or tactics that allow you to get your bench press up? Just let me know in the comments down below. If you enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe, clicking that notification bell so you can get updated every time I post some new content. Hopefully, I'll see you in the next one.